What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Saturdays in the SEC, episode 148. Back with another week of the 2025 SEC preview series. I hope you guys have enjoyed it so far. It's exciting. Now we're in the month of August and just a couple weeks away from kicking things off. And yes, couldn't be more excited for that. And now fall camps are underway, and we're going to head to a couple tonight. First, we're jumping down to the Plains and previewing the Auburn Tigers. And then we're going to go up and call the Hogs in Fayetteville with Arkansas Razorbacks. And looking forward to diving into both these teams tonight. And we're going to start off with Auburn. And Card, I'm going to turn the floor over to you here shortly. But I kind of had a question I wanted to pose to you. As I was kind of thinking about the SEC as a whole and going into this season and what teams are really in need of a fast start and specifically getting a win in week one. I think Auburn's right there at the top of the list as far as teams that need a hot start this season, need a win in week one, with just the state of the program and how critical of a year this is for Hugh Freeze. How critical is it for you personally and how you view the program right now? How critical is it for Auburn to get off to a hot start and get a win week one at Baylor?
100%. It is absolutely crucial, especially if they're going to get 8 wins. So you start off with Baylor, one of the toughest week one games in all of college football. There's several. It's not the toughest by any means, but it's one of the top 10 toughest week one games for sure. So you got Baylor, Ball State, South Alabama, and Mercer. Those are your 4 out-of-conference games. Okay, if you can go 4-0 in those games, and then just go 500 in conference, which is a fairly friendly schedule. You're not having to play all the toughest teams in the conference, and you get Georgia and Alabama both at home. So you go 4-0 in your non-con, and then you go 500 in conference. That gets you 8-4. That is a fantastic year, especially after the last 2 seasons, really the last 4 seasons that Auburn's had, getting Auburn back on track. You go 8-4. That means your product on the field is pretty good. You're probably in a lot of the games that you're losing. That shows that the steps are being taken in the right direction to get back to the winning ways of Auburn football that everyone expects to have. Because, like I said, the last 4 years have been pretty bad, dating back to the Harsin era. So there's no more excuses there, though. Hugh Freeze has got his guys. There's no more of the Harsin excuses. They were relevant the last few years, but no more. He's got his guys. He's been recruiting really well. He's got a lot of blue chip recruits on the roster. He's had some top 10 recruiting classes, some top 10 portal classes. So he's got his guys in there. There's no more excuses of, okay, well, I inherited something bad. This is his team now. It's what he's built. Still early, yes, but you have to, you don't have to, but it definitely benefits you a lot better to get 8 wins or more if you can go 4-0 in non-conference.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, I think, like you stated, that week one game's so critical at Baylor. I mean, obviously it's an early line, but Auburn's, I believe, a slight underdog at FanDuel at the moment. So Friday night game, which I think for college football fans is really exciting. I love a really competitive game, kind of lead the weekend off a little bit. So I'm in favor of them moving that one. I'm happy about it to have a game to look forward to that night, kind of a standalone game, if you will. So yeah, I'm with you. I think it's absolutely critical because, and like you said, they've been recruiting extremely well. The portal class they brought in was really impressive. Obviously, they're not where they want to be right now in the 26 class, and that's been a big topic of discussion over the offseason. And that's also part of the reason why I think it's so critical for them to get some positive momentum going on the field. Because, like you said, the rest of the non-conference is going to be winnable games for you. If you win that one, you're going to be 4-0 in non-conference and set yourself up to have a really nice season in year 3 with Hugh Freeze. But kind of give me your take on what you're seeing offensively, maybe what you've heard some in fall camp so far, and just how you see the roster as it shakes out on paper. Because Auburn's going to have as much talent at the skill position as they've had in that I can ever remember.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely on the receiver room for sure. It's one of the best wide receiver rooms Auburn's had since probably the early 2000s. Running back room is not as strong as it has been. That usually is in Auburn. Not that the guys there aren't good. You got Damari Austin, Jeremiah Cobb, Darnell Robinson, Omar. Can't think of his last name. But there's some guys in the running back field or running back room. It's going to be running back by committee for sure. There's no Jarquez Hunter, no Tank Bigsby. So the running back room is more of a question mark, but everywhere else, man. I mean, the offensive line went out and got some guys to come in and help out in the offensive line. You got Mason Murphy at right tackle coming over from USC, Xavier Chaplin coming over from Virginia Tech, and then you got Dylan Wade, Connor Lew, Jeremiah Wright going to anchor the rest of those spots. You still got Tall Miller there. He's probably going to be the number 2 at right tackle. So the offensive line's the best offensive line Auburn's had in recent memory, for sure. There's no doubt about that. All of them got draft grades a few weeks ago. Now, a 7th-round draft is still a draft grade, but nonetheless, they all got draft grades. Probably going to get their names called next year in the draft. But still, running back room got to be able to. Somebody's got to be able to emerge there, and I think someone will emerge there. Damari Austin's a senior, Jeremiah Cobb's a junior. So I think those are going to be the 2 big guys that are going to get the bulk of the carries. And then quarterback. Upgraded at quarterback with Jackson Arnold. Still a lot of question marks around him in the sense of his confidence. He's, like you mentioned a few episodes ago, his confidence took a hit last year. Understandably so. Had a bad hand dealt to him last year. But his confidence took a hit. My only thing a little bit that I'm I don't know that I'm worried about it, but hearing Hugh Freeze multiple times saying that he's telling DJ Durkin not necessarily to take it easy, but to chill a little bit because his number one goal in practice is to make his quarterback leave with confidence. That kind of scares me a little bit. It's like, all right, man, we're 3 weeks away from the season. If his confidence ain't there yet, it might be trouble. But I don't think that it's that big of a deal. I'm a little skeptical hearing that still.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that actually, so I'm glad you brought this up.
It's like, the other defense is not going to do that. The teams you're playing, they're not going to take it easy on him. He's going to have to figure it out one way or the other. But I don't think that there's too much weight in that. I think they're going to be okay. Still a former Gatorade Player of the Year. He's got talent. You could see spurts last year that he can make some plays still. It's just, and especially with the surrounding talent, he's got Cam Coleman, Malcolm Simmons, Eric Singleton coming over from Georgia Tech, Bryce Kane, Horatio Fields coming in from Wake Forest. So the guys in the wide receiver room are there. You got Preston Howard, tight end, coming over from Maryland. Brandon Frazier still 6th year at Auburn, going to be on the tight end. So the talent he's got around him is definitely going to help him become better. And like I said, his offensive line this year is going to be much better than he had last year. So I'm not necessarily worried about roster-wise when it comes to the offense. It's more coaching. Got to be better, man. The timeouts, there were a bunch of times last year when I thought that the timeout usage was insane. I can't remember the exact game. I can't recall off the top of my head, but I know that Hugh Freeze burned a timeout. It was either right before halftime or in the 4th quarter at 2 minutes and 1 second. How about you just wait a second, dude? We're going to have a 2-minute warning. Like, what are you doing? So things along those lines. And just, teams, a lot of teams will have a word for their season, like brotherhood or intensity or toughness, that define their season. Well, I don't know what their word is this year, but by God, it better be finish, because they were 1-3 in one-score games last year. Had a double-digit lead at home against Oklahoma, lost. Had a double-digit lead late in the game against Missouri and lost. Played atrocious against Arkansas and lost. I mean, but 1-3 in one-score games, bad. That is really bad. They're like 2-8 under Hugh Freeze in games that end in 10 points or less, a 10-point or less margin of victory. So they've got to finish. They're there, and with the roster that they had last year, not comparable to this year. It was much worse last year, and they were still in games. They had ample opportunity to win 2 or 3 more games last year. I mean, you think Cal, Missouri and Oklahoma off the top of my head. I mean, you win those games, that gives you 8 wins last year. So they're there. They just have got to finish. So the things that I'm really worried about is red zone. Red zone, they were the worst in the SEC in red zone percentage last year. Came away with 48%, a little over 48% touchdown percentage, and a 29% field goal percentage. They were also 5 of 11 on field goals last year. You make 4 more of those, you got 2 more wins. So there's just a lot of things that's the little things that end up costing you in the long run. I do think Jackson Arnold's a better quarterback than Peyton Thorne. Obviously, I think he runs it better, but I think he's definitely going to throw it better. I don't think last year, if Jackson Arnold is the quarterback for Auburn against Oklahoma, that Jackson Arnold throws a pick six, throws it right to the middle linebacker. I don't think that happens. Stutzman, I believe, is who it was that ended up picking that ball off. But when you're going to close the game out, I just feel like there's got to be better decisions made on Hugh Freeze's part, and I think he knows that. I don't think he's shying away from that. But also at media days, this is Hugh Freeze's 3rd media day. His first 2 media days, he was very open about the roster is not where we need it to be. The roster is not where we need it to be. So he is saying that he's being very, very open about that he did not believe that the roster was where they wanted it to be in the sense of where they needed to compete week in and week out. This year was the first year he said, we have the roster to compete. Auburn has got the roster to go out and win every game, but if they don't win every game, they've got a roster to go and be in every single game to the last snap of the game. So that's encouraging, but I think with the wide receiver depth, the talent that they've been able to stack, they've got young talent all across the team, but especially in the wide receiver room, they've got proven talent that they went out and got in the portal. So I expect the offense to be much better and to be able to finish drives this coming season. That's the biggest thing that Auburn has got to do. If Auburn can just finish drives, it doesn't have to be a touchdown every time, but finish drives with points, that's a 78%, 77% red zone percentage. That's not good enough. If you're going to compete in the SEC, that is not good enough. So finish, that's the biggest thing I can say for Auburn is just finish.
Yeah, I think the big thing for Jackson Arnold, too, and that cost Auburn quite a few games early in the season, is just taking care of the football. Because, like you said,
Right.
you've got the amount of weapons, more weapons than any Auburn quarterbacks had in recent memory with Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton, Malcolm Simmons, the list goes on, Bryce Kane. It's deepest room I can remember Auburn having for sure. And like you said, this is definitely the most experienced and best offensive line Auburn's had in recent memory, too. So he's going to have the supporting cast around him. He's just got to take care of the football. It's what I said about Ty Simpson in Alabama's preview. A lot of Alabama's games they lost last year, you could solely base on turn the football over. And you look the Cal game, Auburn had multiple turnovers. Oklahoma, what got Oklahoma back in that game? Turn the football over. Same, I'm sure, I don't know the turnover total for the Arkansas game, but I'm pretty sure they had multiple turnovers in that game too, because that was a big-time theme for them early last season. It cost them 2 or 3 games just before mid-October, honestly. So, and that changes the whole trajectory of your season. So, for him, man, he's just got to take care of the ball, try not to do too much, and just let his playmakers help him out. And I definitely think he'll be in a much better situation, this year. But kind of going back to that Baylor game, though, and this is not to be overly dramatic about one game, but I think it's a total trajectory changer of the entire
100%.
season. I think the potential is there for it to be. Not saying they're going to go in the tank if they lose a close game at Baylor. I'm not saying that at all, but I just think a win could go a super long way, and I think a loss could be very damaging for their long-term season hopes. And like I said, you don't want to put so much stock into one game, but I just think if there's any program that's in need of immediate on-field results, it's this team and this program. And they got the pieces to go do it. But like Hugh Freeze has been saying, the roster hasn't been where it needs to be, but it's in a much better place now. And I think everybody's just sitting there anxious, like, okay, now it's time to go prove it on the field. Like, we think we got the pieces we need. Now it's just about stacking up some wins.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a tough draw week one. Their quarterback is extremely good over there at Baylor. They got a good team. So that brings us to the defense. The defense is going to keep Auburn and win Auburn ball games this year. The offense, we've covered them. They're stacked talent from head to toe. They can do it. But the defense is going to be the ones that's making the big difference. I mean, Keldrick Faulk's going to be a first-round draft pick next year. Amaris Williams, both of them coming off the edge, that's going to be big help. If those two have good years, Auburn's going to have a really good football season. Quintrell Jamison Travis, Jay Hardy coming over from Liberty, who started his career at Auburn, then transferred to Liberty. Malik Blockton, Dallas Walker, James Ash, Jared Smith is a true freshman that's probably going to get some playing time. Malik Autry and Jordan Crawford are going to get some playing time as true freshmen. If those guys can step up and solidify a name for themselves as young guys, I like where Auburn's defense can go. Last year, they played the most true freshmen in all of college football on the defensive side. They had 8 true freshmen playing and starting, especially in the second half of the year. That was the most of any college football team. So the experience is there. There's not going to be anything that's going to trip them up or surprise them. So the defense is – and DJ Durkin, man, I love DJ Durkin. I have zero complaints about him other than getting off the field on third down. But, again, that was last year. There was a lot of young guys, so things like that are going to happen. I think the defense is going to be the anchor of this team, is going to drive this team. The defensive backfield, man, is tremendous. You got Kayan Lee, Caleb Harris, Jacoby Matthews. That was a huge get out of the portal coming over from Texas A&M, one of the highest graded defensive backs in college football. Jay Crawford, Sylvester Smith. So you got a lot of young guys with a lot of talent and a lot of experience playing there in the defensive backfield that's going to help big time. And then you look at the linebacker core. You got Kieron Crawford, DeMarcus Riddick, Rayshawn Pleasant's coming over from Tulane, who I don't know if y'all watched him play last year. If you got to see him, you know the dude's a baller. Xavier Atkins coming over from LSU, Chris Murray from Sam Houston State. Caleb Wheatland's coming over from Maryland, and then you got some younger guys. Anquan Fagans is expected to make a big impact in the linebacker core. He's coming over from Thompson High School. And then you got Robert Woodard. So the front seven, I'm optimistic on for sure. There's a lot of unknowns, a lot of unprovens, but I'm insanely optimistic because there's been so many snaps played between those guys. So they have to get off the field on third down, and it's time to put up or shut up now. This is the year where, like you said, we've heard it over and over again. They're just not there, and now we're hearing that, okay, they believe in the roster, the coaching staff believes in the roster, and we've been hearing Auburn can do this, Auburn can do that. Well, now it's time to prove it. Go out there, strap it up, and prove it. Like you said, the Baylor game is a lot is going into that game. I think I don't think they're going to go in the tank if they do end up losing that game. But also, if they are able to win that game, I think the buy-in comes over trifold. What I mean? The buy-in from the players is going to be tremendous if they are able to win that game, which is just going to boost you into the conference play come week 4. So getting into the schedule, like I said, I've said this since last year's season ended. Give me 8 this year, and I am extremely pleased. 8 tells me that we're on the right path to getting back to where Auburn needs to be. You can get me 8, I can show you a product on the field that's getting better and better and better each week. So like I said, you go 4-0 in non-conference, you just have to go 500 in conference play. I think the toss-ups, Oklahoma, Missouri, I think those are the 2 toss-ups. Everything else I think is pretty, and I would say A&M's a toss-up just because Auburn was able to get them last year and they had a depleted roster. But they're at A&M this year, so I'm probably giving A&M the lean there. I think that A&M, Georgia, and Alabama are probably 3 definite losses. And we both agreed a few weeks ago when we covered Oklahoma that we probably think Oklahoma might get the lean against Auburn, being at home. They've got a restructured roster too. If that shapes out, then that's 8 wins. I really think that Auburn's going to be better than Missouri when it comes to roster. Now, play, we'll see. That's week 7 or 8. So, it's a lot to happen between now and then. Night game against Georgia. Jordan Hare gets rocking at night. If Auburn's clicking on all cylinders, you never know what could happen. You get Bama at home as well. Anything can happen in the Iron Bowl. We've seen that time and time again. But realistically, I think Auburn probably goes 8-4. If they go 7-5, I'm going to be a little upset. It's kind of like the Oklahoma, like we've covered them. If the product on the field is better, and you can clearly tell that it's better, and they're not just blowing games, they're just playing some tight ball games, and they get beat, but they're not giving it away. They're not blowing double-digit leads in the third and fourth quarter. I think Hugh Freeze gets another year, or maybe not another year. He's going to get another year regardless. I don't think the heat's turned up on him. But you get 8 or more, Hugh Freeze is in the clear. He's proven what he's saying is going to work. And he can win in this conference. He's done it before. He's won in this conference at Ole Miss. He can win here. But now he's got his roster the way he wants it. So, again, it's time to put up or shut up now. Defense is going to be solid. The real question marks is around the offense. There's a lot of talent there, but a lot of unknowns and how they're going to play together.
Yeah, I think, kind of like you said, looking at the schedule, I think the Baylor game, we've talked about that several times. That's a critical one because if you win that game, unless all hell breaks loose, you're going 4-0 in non-conference, which would be big. It's always good to go undefeated in non-conference. Obviously a tough opening stretch in the SEC, going to Oklahoma and A&M back-to-back. That's tough. A&M's coming off a bye as well, so an early bye. That's why I think that first one's so critical because you don't get that one. You can be a good football team and lose at Oklahoma and at Texas A&M and not be a bad team at all. And then you're sitting there 2-3. That's why I think it's such a trajectory changer for Auburn. But where they're really going to make their ground up is, and this is probably one of the more favorable SEC schedules Auburn has gotten. You've got,
especially in the back half.
Yeah, you get Missouri, who's a good team, no doubt about it. But you get them at home, and then you're playing 3 straight games against bottom 4th teams in the SEC. I mean, you're talking about teams that are going to finish 11th or 12th and worse. And not that they're all terrible teams, but you're at Arkansas, Kentucky and home, at Vanderbilt. If Auburn gets to, if they got to win all of those if they're going to get where they want to go this year. Definitely those
100%.
3. Getting the Missouri one at home, again, another coin flip game. That's one you would love to have to be able to get to where you want to be this year. But Auburn absolutely has to win those 3. And they really need to go undefeated in a non-conference, which if you get Baylor, it's not going to be that hard. So, yeah, I honestly, I think I'm with you. I'm teetering on that 7 to 8 win marks. I could absolutely see 8-4. I'm like you though. I think he does enough to get another year. Like I think it's going to be noticeably better product on the field this year. I think that the talent's going to be evident that there's been a roster upgrade there, and I do think they're going to clean up some of the turnovers, and they're not going to lose games this year, I believe, the way they did a year ago a couple times. So, yeah, I've got them. I'm kind of hovering over 7 or 8, but I think I'm going to go with you and lean 8-4 as well. I think it's going to be a noticeable improvement this year. And, like, you could easily talk me into, them losing to Missouri and maybe beating an A&M or an Oklahoma or a Georgia or Alabama. Like, they've got the capability of doing that. I mean, they've got the capability of, if they play at their best, they have the capability of winning every game on their schedule. Just like I feel that way about quite a few teams in the SEC. So I think they're going to be noticeably better. I thought they'd be better than they record-wise were a year ago. And really should have been if they would have had some turnover issues and some of the things we highlighted earlier. So, yeah, I mean, I like where they're at from a roster standpoint, and I think they're going to be noticeably better.
My main, I say main concern, it's not my main concern, but another big thing that's got to happen for Auburn to be successful offensively, got to run the ball more. I mean, I remember last year, every single episode we recorded, minus one, minus the Kentucky game. After that week, whatever week that was in late October, early November, whenever Auburn played Kentucky and Jarquez got the ball like 28 times and ran for 280 or whatever he did. Other than that, every single week I was saying they've got to run the ball more. Got to run the ball more. And I think that now with the offensive line they're going to have the ability to be able to run the ball more. More of a shove it down your throat type running game. I think they got the pieces to do that. And if that happens, then you open up the offense to be able to do whatever you want, especially with the talent you got. But they've got to be able to establish the run game and stick with the run game. I feel like Hugh Freeze has gone away from the run game the last 2 years way more than he should have. So, again, I'm not acting like I know more than these SEC coaches because it ain't even close. They've forgotten more than I know. But I do know enough to know that he abandoned the run game several times last year when they shouldn't have. So if Auburn's able to run the ball at just 4 yards a carry, average 4 yards a carry, I like where this Auburn team can go at the end of the year.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's a point we hammered all last season. And feel like really the last couple seasons, probably, honestly. I feel like that's been a little bit of a theme. But, yeah, I'm really interested to watch this team, like I said, early on especially, as we've highlighted numerous times, see what kind of start they get off to. 3 big road games in the month of August and September is I think, going to tell you a lot early on and kind of see the progress they've made. And they get off to a good start.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
I know we talked about when we covered Oklahoma, you said you believe they start 5-0, and week 5 for them, or week 4 for them is Auburn. Auburn beats Baylor. They're playing some good football. You know, they clean up against Ball State and South Alabama, clean up their mistakes, get ready to go, stay healthy. Going into Oklahoma week 4, I know you said that you think that Oklahoma's going to start 5-0, and honestly, I think Oklahoma's going to start 5-0. Realistically, going into that game, both teams are undefeated. What kind of ball game do you think we get from Auburn, Oklahoma? Both are undefeated in Norman.
I think it's going to be awesome. I mean, I think both teams to me are pretty. I mean, it really is a coin flip type of game. Obviously, I want to see what both teams are showing first, but I think you get Jackson Arnold going back to OU. And if John Mateer can play to the level that people are expecting this year, and kind of what he can do at OU, man, should be a really exciting game. Obviously, my team had a very bad experience last year there in Norman, so maybe it will go better for your team. But honestly, I expect that to be a really competitive game. Like I said, Jackson Arnold going back there should make for some interesting headlines for sure. But honestly, I would love to see that. I'd love to see an early undefeated matchup between these two. I'm not sure what other games are that week, but I think that very possibly could be a primetime game. I'd have to look the schedule, but that would be super exciting. But I would like to see this revamped, Hugh Freeze offense go against this OU defense. It will be a hell of a test early in the season for sure. You've got Dave Aranda and Brent Venables in the first couple weeks. That can get your offense
defensively.
Exactly.
They beat Oklahoma. Auburn beats Oklahoma. They start out 4-0. Traveling to A&M. Is Auburn favored in that game?
Man, I'm going to guess no, but just slightly. Like if they do happen to be 4-0. I think just the home field advantage aspect, I would say if that were the case, if they are 4-0, I would say no, but just barely, in my opinion.
I agree with you. I agree.
Yeah, I think it'd be a field goal, maybe 2.5, 3, something like that. Again, though, that's what I'm saying. Like Auburn's got some very I don't know if I'd say season-defining game, but I mean maybe you could say that. But I just think that early stretch out of the gate. That's why I think a fast start is so important for them because, as you know, the really good seasons Auburn's had, they kind of started off under the radar, and then they just picked up momentum as the season went on. And then you look at November, and they're absolutely rolling. Like you can make a case that could happen this year. I mean, early on, obviously, is really the tougher part. I mean, those first 5 games, Baylor, or first 6 games, Baylor, Oklahoma, A&M, Georgia. But it lightens up a lot after that. Missouri, Arkansas, Kentucky, Vandy, Mercer, Alabama. Like, those 5 between Georgia and Alabama, they can absolutely win all of those, and probably be favored in all those games. So,
Right.
That's why I think it's just so critical they get off to a hot start. And no, I'm very pumped for those games at Oklahoma, at Texas A&M, because I think it's going to tell you a lot, and I think we'll find out a lot before the month of September's over about this Auburn team.
I agree. Hot starts and finish. Got to finish and finishing drives, finishing games, and Auburn's sitting at 8 wins at the end of the year, I firmly believe. I think the ceiling for them is 9 wins. I think the floor is 6-6. I think that's a realistic possibility that it could happen if some of the same problems and same issues happen. But I'm sitting win total for them. Vegas has got them at 7.5 right now. Excuse me. I think that's about right. I think Auburn gets over that hump. If I'm putting money on it, I'm not. But if I was to put money on it, I'm going to go over. I think they get 8 wins. And like you said, I think you go 4-0 in non-conference, and that stretch between Georgia and Alabama, I think you can very well get to 8 wins without question.
Yeah, it's going to be super interesting, man. It's like I said, this is one of those teams in the mix in the middle part of the SEC that's going to be an absolute brawl. I mean, we've kind of made a list of some of those teams there's just such little margin between a lot of these teams. And like I said, I think Auburn's schedule does them some favors compared to maybe what they've had in the past of you're getting a year where you're getting Arkansas, who's going to be more at the bottom of the conference, not to give away my prediction for them. Kentucky, near the bottom of the conference. Probably Vandy's a solid team, but it's going to be more towards the bottom of the conference more than likely. So those are the ones, if you're Auburn, you definitely got to take advantage of. And I think they
Absolutely.
will.
All right, moving over to Arkansas. You just touched on it a little bit. Vegas has got them a win total of 5.5. I think that's pretty spot on, too. I mean, Vegas makes money for a reason.
Yeah.
But going into their offense, they have one of the better quarterbacks in the conference. You can make arguments that he's a top 5 quarterback in the conference. Taylor Green, he does make some mistakes. I think the upside is much better and higher on him than the downside for sure. Braylon Russell, Mike Washington, running back coming over from New Mexico State, excuse me. He's a great receiver out of the backfield. I think that was a huge get for them. They got some transfer guys on the offensive line, and I say some transfer guys. Pretty much the whole offensive line is transfer guys. Receiving room. They got a lot of transfers on the offensive line too, but the whole entire receiver room is brand new. They don't have a single returning receiver from last year. We'll go to their offensive line first. At left tackle, you got Corey Robinson coming over from Georgia Tech. Left guard and right guard. Both of their guard positions, they started every single game for them last year at Arkansas. Those are the only 2 returning. Fernando Carmona started at left guard every single game last year. And at right guard, you got a Marion Harris who started every single game for them. At center, you got Caden Kittler coming over from UCF. And at right tackle, Shaq McCroy, he's coming from Oregon. Didn't play at Oregon, was a true freshman last year. I think that's a phenomenal get out of the portal. There's been a lot of praise coming from the Arkansas beat writers on him. Going to be the starting tackle over there as a redshirt freshman. So they're replacing all of their wide receivers on the offense. So that's tough for a quarterback. Losing every guy you threw to. The guy I'm excited to see, I don't know how good he's going to be, but what I'm excited to see is Monte Harrison, a 30-year-old coming in, a former minor league baseball player, went and played some baseball instead of going to college. Didn't quite pan out, so he retired and says, all right, I'm going to go back and play some college football. He was a highly touted recruit out of high school. So I'm excited to see where he's going to play and how he's going to shake out. And they got Omega Blake coming over from Charlotte, who averaged over 20 yards a catch last season. So I think that he's probably going to be the number 1 receiver there for Arkansas. Then you got Ismail Cece from Stanford, Raylan Sharp coming in from Fresno State, Jalen Brown coming over from FSU, and then Cam Shanks coming over from UAB. Really, Cam Shanks, he played some at UAB last year, is pretty good, but he's a return specialist, so he's insanely fast. I'm excited to see what he can do. But in reality, there's just a lot of unknowns on this offense for Arkansas. Sam Pittman's really he's got this is a make or break season for him. I think if he repeats the last 2 years, he's probably not going to have a job as a head coach anymore. You do return both coordinators. You got Bobby Petrino coming back on the offense, and you got Travis Williams coming back on the defense. And they also added Marcus Wooden coming over as co-defensive coordinator and secondaries coach. So they've got the coaching staff is nice. I'm a big Travis Williams fan. Was at Auburn for a while, played at Auburn, coached at Auburn for a while. I think he's done a great job with that defense. The defense was one of the better parts of their teams last year at times, and then at other times they were, just some of the worst. They were just very inconsistent, really on both sides of the ball, but defensively for sure. But the replacements that they have is not like the Ole Miss. They got 30-something new guys, but every single one of their guys they got in were pretty highly touted guys out of the portal, played a ton of football, had a lot of production. A lot of these guys they're adding through here didn't play a whole lot of football, and their production was just middle of the pack. Some of their guys, Omega Blake and Ismail Cece, they had some better production, but a lot of the guys they're adding, the production is not quite there, so there's just a lot of question marks about what we're going to get offensively.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I'm curious to see this team because, Sam Pittman has the ability to kind of overachieve at times with them and getting a lot out of his guys. Like you highlighted, Taylon Green coming back is obviously a big deal anytime you have a returning quarterback, and he was a really dynamic playmaker last year. Obviously not like one of the better passers in the SEC, but I thought at times was pretty effective as a passer. Obviously very dynamic with his legs. Definitely a tough situation, as you highlighted, with all the 8 transfer receivers coming in, not having a single guy hardly that was in your top 9 or 10 pass catchers.
Right.
But I think a running back room that's going to be pretty deep. I think maybe one of the deeper ones they've had in a while. Maybe not like a superstar that's standing out, but some guys that can really tote it, and I think they're going to have several guys contribute there. And then the offensive line, I think, is going to be really solid as well. And Sam Pittman, that's his background as an offensive line coach. So I think the offensive line is going to be pretty solid for him this year. So several parts of the offense, I think, should be really good. But the receiver core kind of emerging and having some of those transfer players hit is going to be critical for them. And I think you highlight with the defense as well. I think Travis Williams has done a really, really good job there. They've had some solid defenses. Obviously, some hiccups and some growing pains at times. Last year they gave up 63 to Ole Miss, was tough. The Oklahoma State game early in the year, that was a game they probably should have won, honestly. But still, Sam Pittman was able to get this team to a bowl game. Getting to 7-6 a year ago, a bounce back after 4-8 in 2023. But yeah, you highlighted it perfectly though. It is a make or break year for him. Definitely needs to get back to a bowl game for sure. And show some improvement because, that 4-8 is still lingering a little bit. You bounced back a little bit last year, but still you were 7-6. I just don't know if I see enough roster-wise to be able to do that. I do think they could get to 6 wins and get back to a bowl game. That wouldn't surprise me at all. But I just don't see much more than that with the roster they have on paper. And then the schedule they got to play, which is one of the toughest in the country. You highlight too, the linebacking core is going to be strong, but definitely some question marks in the defensive front compared to what they've had. They had Landon Jackson, one of the better defensive ends in the SEC the last couple of years. Not going to have him now. Lost some other key contributors. And then the secondary is going to have some question marks as well. So I'm just not sure Arkansas is going to be able to get to where their fans want to be And I hope Sam Pittman's able to make it around to a seventh year, but I'm really not sure at this point.
Yeah, me either. We're on the same wavelength there. I mean, they were last in the SEC in pass defense last year. They really overhauled their whole entire defensive back room. They really are only returning 3 guys, and Selman Bridges, Larry Worth, and Miguel Mitchell. Those are the only 3 guys returning. Everybody else, they went and got out of the portal. They do have Keyshawn Davila coming in. He's the number 1 JUCO defensive back this past class. So, they're expecting him to help. Caleb Wooden from Auburn, Julian Neal from Fresno State, Kanai Walker from Oklahoma. So they've got some guys, but they have got to improve there. But their defensive pass efficiency last year was not all on the defensive back room. A lot of it was on lack of quarterback pressure from the defensive line. They struggled getting pressure on the quarterback, struggled getting sacks. They have got to be able to provide some type of heat on the quarterbacks to help their defensive backs out. You can let a receiver run for years, and he's eventually going to get open. If the quarterback can stand back there for 6-7 seconds, he's going to find somebody that's open. So if they're not able to get pressure on the quarterback, I think that it's probably going to be another long road on that defensive side of the football this year in the passing game. So how much improvement can they have? They're bringing in a lot of new guys, but how much improvement can they have if their front 7 is not showing out? Because front 7, they're returning a lot of guys. A lot of young guys, a lot of inexperienced guys. Charlie Collins, Quincy Rhodes on the defense, to the 2 big defensive ends that they're expecting to make big steps from last year. Both of them have lots of potential, but they were pretty inconsistent last year at times. Your linebacker course pretty much returning everybody with the addition of Andrew Harris from UCF. So, you got your guys and you know what to expect from them, but can they take that next step up? We're not asking them to be barn burners, and just be the best defensive lineman in the country, but can they take that next step to help their backfield out? Because if they can do that, I think they're going to take some steps in improvement in the defensive side, especially when it comes to the pass defense. But if they're not able to provide any type of pressure, it's going to be a long season. And speaking of that, we talked about, they're probably going to be in the bottom half of the conference. Starting off, they're probably going to start off 2-0 with Alabama A&M, and they're playing an in-state team, Arkansas State. Then they open up conference play with Ole Miss, travel to Ole Miss, and I thought this was weird when I looked at their schedule. After that, they're traveling to Memphis. Memphis is a good football team. You're having to go play on their home turf. That's a toss-up game for me. I'm not penciling that in for a W at all. Memphis is a really good football team, and you're playing there. So that's tough. Then after that, you're hosting Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I mean, their out of conference is brutal, dude. So I think Notre Dame gets them. I think Tennessee's a toss-up. It's at Tennessee, so I'm probably going to give the win to Tennessee. Follow that up with A&M, Auburn, Mississippi State. I think they get a win there. LSU, at Texas, and then facing Missouri. I mean, realistically, I'm giving them 4 wins. I mean, I think they probably go 4-8 again, probably repeat the 4-8. I think they get Alabama A&M. I think they get Arkansas State. I think Memphis is going to get them. I really do. I think they beat Mississippi State, and maybe just because it's a rivalry game, they can beat Missouri at the end of the year. It just, anything can happen in those rivalry games, but if they beat Missouri, that only gives them 5 wins of what I got. I love Sam Pittman. I think that 5.5 is right on the money, but I ain't touching it with a 20-foot pole, man. That is tough. I think their ceiling is 6-6. Ceiling is 6-6 getting to a bowl game. I'm not sure they reach their ceiling. I think they go 4-8. I really do. This is, probably worst 3 teams in the league this year.
Yeah, this is definitely a tough and interesting schedule because I was going down through it and I was like, okay, obviously opening up on the road at Ole Miss will be tough, and then I'm like, okay, at Memphis, definitely, I guess a little bit of an odd game there, especially where it's at week 4, and then I'm like, Notre Dame's week 5. I was like, I honest. This is the dead truth, and I keep up with the SEC, and I had no clue Arkansas was playing Notre Dame till about 4 or 5 days ago. I had no idea Notre Dame. I was like, what in the hell is Notre Dame doing right here? In week 5 too, like it was. I don't know, man. Like that. I don't know, just kind of an odd place for it, I felt like. But very interesting. I'm very excited for that now. I saw that. I was like, oh, okay, like that's a game that I'm excited for that I really wasn't even expecting to see, honestly. So, yeah, it's a really tough schedule, man. I mean, you highlighted the out of conference with Notre Dame and at Memphis. Man, that's tough. And then, obviously, a very tough SEC schedule, too, especially your road slate at Texas, at LSU, at Tennessee, at Ole Miss. Like, that's no joke. They're not better than any of those teams.
No.
I mean, like you said, I mean, could they maybe, Mississippi State, I definitely think they can beat. Missouri at the end of the year, depending on how their season goes, that's one they could beat. If Auburn just happens to go bad, that's one they could get. I don't think they're near as talented, though. Kind of same with Missouri. I don't think they're as talented as Missouri either, but you never know how a season could go. But I'm like you. I think they find a way to surprise somebody. I will say at least some of Sam Pittman's decent teams. I was kind of looking back in 2021. They had that surprise win against Texas kind of early in the season. They beat a top 10 ranked A&M team. That was their surprise year. They went 9-4. Obviously a good team. The following year they went 7-6, but they did have a 2-touchdown win over Ole Miss, who was a top 15 team. And then last year they went 7-6, and had a surprise win against Tennessee at home, who was in the top 5. So Sam Pittman and this Arkansas team, when they have some decent teams, they have that ability to pull off an upset that maybe they're not expected to. I could easily see that being the case this year. I don't know who that team would be. Maybe it is a Notre Dame, or maybe it is an Ole Miss or a Mississippi State or Auburn or Missouri or one of those. Be interesting to see, but I'm going to lean them going 5-7, I think. If they were 6-6, it wouldn't shock me. If they were 4-8, it wouldn't shock me either. I can't see with this schedule and where the roster is, I just can't see more than 6 wins, in my opinion.
I'm with you there. I mean, like I said, I think they're ceiling 6-6 for sure. All right, so if they miss a bowl game, is Sam Pittman out? I think he is.
I think he is.
I
would
think
lean
he's gone.
so.
Do they go back and get Bobby Petrino to move over from OC to be head man? Now, I'm not trying to fire anybody here on August 6th. That is not my goal. I'm just saying.
And we love Sam Pittman, for the record. We love Sam Pittman.
Bobby Petrino getting referbished and coming back in. No more
I could
motorcycles.
See it. I could
no
see
more
it.
mistresses coming in being the head man.
I could see it. It would not surprise me, for real. I mean, obviously there at Arkansas, the expectations are quite high. I just can't see. That would be 4 straight years of 7-6, 4-8, 7-6, and then say they win 5 or 6 or whatever, or if they went 4-8 again. Yeah, I don't think he'd be able to survive that. I mean, he's going into his 6th year. I think at that point, if he's at 5 wins or something like that, I think it'll about have run its course, and I do think they would move on at that point. I'm definitely pulling for him to be a little better than expected, and like I said, I think that wouldn't shock me. I don't see him getting to 7 or 8 wins. Honestly, I just don't think they have enough. But I mean, if they got to 6 and made a bowl game and won 7 like they did a year ago, that wouldn't surprise me one bit. But I would lean more to probably not at this point. And a lot of it's just due to the schedule, too. I mean, you got Notre Dame, Memphis, and all those SEC teams, and especially on the road they have. It's a tough sledding for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. They definitely have one of the tougher schedules, and I don't know that it's necessarily. Is it a super, super tough schedule, or do we just think it's a super tough schedule because of where their roster is and where they've been the last few years? I know you can't base everything on the previous years because people get better over time, but what they have added and how they have been the last few years, I just find it hard to believe that the buy-in from the outside world is going to be there for them to win too many ball games.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, the honest truth is they're just not as talented as most of the teams in the
Right.
SEC. I mean, they have talent. Don't get me wrong; they're going to be good in spots. I just think when you're looking at it as an overall roster as a whole, they're just not as good as obviously the Texas, the LSU's, the A&M's, Tennessee. Notre Dame. I mean, was in the national title last year. I mean, Memphis is a solid football team. You're at Ole Miss, who's going to have another solid team again. Missouri won 9-10 games last year again. So, yeah, I mean, I do think part of it is you look at the schedule and you look at Arkansas's roster compared to a lot of those, and I think that does definitely make it look a little tougher. But honestly, like it's really tough. Like regardless, this could be.
Yeah.
This could be Ohio State or Georgia playing this schedule, and it would still be really tough.
Absolutely, I think it's a win for Arkansas fans. I think Arkansas fans are over the moon if they get to 7 wins. Like I think they are over the moon ecstatic if they get to 7 wins, and if they're not thinking that right now, they should be because of where this schedule is leading in, especially the back half of the season. I mean they get A&M, Auburn, Mississippi State, LSU, Texas, Missouri in a row. Really with I guess you could say 2 not so tough games, and I'm counting Auburn and Mississippi State in that just for where they've been the last few years. But A&M, at LSU, at Texas, and back-to-back weeks, that's tough.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say about Arkansas too, because I don't want it to think we're being negative on them. I like a lot of parts on their team, honestly. And one thing about them, there's going to be a couple games they take it on the chin, no doubt about it. But most of these games, they're going to be in. Like, they're not just going to be getting their brakes beat off every week. More than likely. I mean, Sam Pittman's teams, there's been a lot of ball games they've been really, really close to winning. Games they probably didn't have any business being in, to be honest with you. So, if that was the case again this year, this team's going to fight. He's going to have them ready to go. So, it's not going to be a case of they're just getting their brains beat in all week, every week, their whole season. They're going to be in a lot of these games. I don't think a lot of them will probably go their way because I just don't think they're going to be as good. But it's not going to be from a lack of competitiveness or a lack of fight. They're going to do that. They're going to play extremely hard, and they have a quarterback that's a big time playmaker, and that gives you a chance in some games where maybe you wouldn't have as much of a chance. So I think they're still going to be an exciting team to watch. I want to see how those receivers gel, and seeing Taylor Green another year in the system, because he is one of the more dynamic playmakers in the league for sure.
Absolutely, and like you said, there's some games they're going to be in that they might surprise us. You think of the Oklahoma State game last year. Oklahoma State didn't score a touchdown until like the fourth quarter, so they were in that ball game the whole time. They just couldn't quite find a way to get it done. But they made a comeback. Late in the game, they made a comeback and made it interesting. They just couldn't quite find a way to get it done. So you're 100% right on that. They are going to fight to the last whistle. No doubt about it. No matter what the scoreboard says, they're going to give it their all the whole time. That's Sam Pittman's MO for sure. But realistically, we're all about on the same page. 4-8, 5-7 type season.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to watch them though. See kind of how the year progresses. Couple wins early, I think they can get, and then obviously it gets tough quick there in late September. A couple out of conference matchups that'll be really fun to see and test them before they get in the heart of SEC play. But yeah, hopefully Pittman can do enough to hang around another year there in Fayetteville. But like we said, they're going to fight, they're going to compete, and no, they got a really talented quarterback, and I'm excited about that for them to see him another year too. Appreciate everyone tuning in again for part 5 of the preview series. Really liking the new recording software we're using, being back on
Absolutely.
Spotify and being on YouTube. It's helped us out a lot. I think it's putting a better presentation out there for everyone as well too. So excited about that. As I highlighted at the beginning, just excited it's August. We're getting to that week where we're getting to the first scrimmages of fall camp. It's going to be coming up this weekend for most of the teams in the SEC. So it's just exciting to have some coverage, some things to watch, some practice clips to read, and we're just getting ever so closer. Got a couple more previews, and then we'll get into
4
game
more Saturdays.
Yeah, man, I can't wait. It's such a fun time of year. Be sure to follow us on TikTok as well. Cardin's posting clips on there. We got a lot of traffic on those, and as we said, we really appreciate that. Be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and leave your feedback, any comments you want to make. We really, really appreciate that, and hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll catch you back here next week on Saturdays in the SEC.
Thank you, guys.